how did you learn every facet of every part of this business?
Well, I mean, let's look at you back then. Intense would be an understatement of your drive and your expectations and where you wanted to go, because you had a vision and you knew that the vision was attainable, but it was only attainable if we took what was at the beginning a very small and scrappy team of people, achieved some pretty extraordinary things together that not one of the people on that team, including us, had ever done. The desire to understand every role was a necessity, because what you expected wasn't that we were going to fumble through things. What you expected was that we were going to not only figure it out, but perfect it.
In life, there's a blueprint for everything. There's no need to start over. Hear from industry leaders, those at the top of their fitness journey, and real estate gurus. They tell you exactly how they did it. All you have to do is listen, learn, and execute. This is The Blueprint with Brad Rice.
All right, guys, today I am super excited to have my guest here who is, who I don't need notes for an introduction, because I've known her for, 26 years? 26 years.
Yeah.
So, Jamie Cavanaugh came and worked for me, and I like to say at 19 years old, but it really wasn't. You were 20. 19 just sounds like so young. Came to work for me when she was 20. In a very short period of time, I realized this person is highly skilled. As a young person who just got into business recently, she came and worked for me at my mortgage company, quickly ran up the ladder, and then helped me to grow my previous company, my previous mortgage company, into a giant operation by my side. And she is now my business partner. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's awesome to be here. This is going to be probably the most fun that we've done, because we don't often get to interview each other. We're usually focusing on other folks.
You're spot on. And I've never really interviewed you. We have somewhere we've shared on our other podcast, and then we did some filming where you kind of asked me questions, but this is going to be all about you.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So here's where I want to start. Like, we don't have to go through your entire history, but I do want to talk about how you, as a young girl, and I'll just say that, as a young girl, started in the mortgage business. You were an assistant, you were an escrow, so, or not escrow, but you were in processing, loan processing. And then, how you came and joined me, and how we kind of grew that previous entity, and how you were such a big part of that at such a young age. Like, I think it would be interesting for people that know you, because you become, honestly, really quite an icon in the mortgage industry. I know, you don't like to think like that, but you have, and we'll talk about some of that and how that happened. But a lot of people in the mortgage industry, and a lot of people in the mortgage industry know, love, and respect you. So I want to really talk about that whole timeline of when you started, how we grew that, then how you left and you went to go work for other companies. What happened there, maybe some specific stories, because I think it'll give people really nice insight into how you now are a business partner in a successful mortgage company that's really growing and, really kind of found your footing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about when I went over to join you back in 1998. I was thinking about it just the other morning. To be fair,
I think it was 99.
It might have been. You know what? I think it was right out, like the new year, basically. So I was thinking about that the other morning. For some reason, I had this flashback of when I worked at Aspen Mortgage, which doesn't even exist anymore, and how a friend of mine who was a processor there was considering coming aboard with you and decided not to, and said, you might want to consider this opportunity. And how that one thing that at the time just seemed like the next natural step for me in my career, how that moment became pivotal in every facet of life and business for me, and for you, I think too, in a lot of ways. And I never would have ever envisioned where we are now or where I would go. I could never have predicted that in a million years. You look back and I think to myself, I was so young, like so young. And, you can have as much knowledge in the industry as you want to, but you can't ever fake maturity, right? And life experience. And so when you reflect back on 26 years of that, it's been the evolution of me as much as it has been the evolution of my career. And, coming from having been a very shy person growing up, a person who did not want the spotlight on me, a person who, I'll just say it, I was bullied a lot in junior high and high school.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit because people that know you today would never know what you were like when you were in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. You were overweight.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You didn't really wear makeup. I mean, here you are. You're a really smart person, like super smart, sharp, like all that still exists today. But from the outside looking in, people would have thought like you were like, what? Why is this? And you did get this from a lot of people, like, who's this girl? Like, who does she think she is? But you were really, once they engaged with you and they realized how smart you were, it was like, oh, instant respect. From the outside looking in, they didn't have that.
Nope.
And there were many times that I had to say, we're in a group meeting. I'm like, you're not talking to me, you're talking to her. Like, she's the one that's going to make this decision. And we had to kind of set the stage for that because, looks played a big factor in it, right?
Especially back then, even more so because back then, even more heavily male-dominated industry, but not so much male versus female. I'll say more so, more corporate. You used to wear tailored clothes, monograms with cufflinks. I wore suits. I had a suit for every day of the week. That was the way that it was in our industry back then. And so there's a whole thing we could go down a rabbit hole on with respect to not just my appearance and sort of like my image at the time, but also the part that played in my psyche and my emotions and the way that I behaved and interacted as a leader, a very young leader, cringy, very young leader, but also as a person, because I didn't quite know where I fit or how to receive the level of responsibility that I had.
Yeah, you didn't have the same confidence that you have today. Like you knew your stuff, and when it came to work, you really knew what you were doing. You could execute, get things done, but you didn't have the confidence. And so there were many times where you overcompensated for that as a leader, and you were mean.
Very.
And you were very, you would cut people off. You'd want to fire people very quickly, like all of that. And I'd have to go, hey, come, let's have a talk. No, this is, and kind of go through the analysis of maybe what transpired, how you could handle it better, and how we could get more out of somebody that's working for us. And, there were times you disagreed with me, and we'd still keep people aboard, maybe longer than we should have, because maybe you had the intuition, and I was more like, I just wanted to believe the good in everybody, and we got to the point where they hurt us. But there was still the kind of that you didn't really have the confidence you have today, where you handled it in a very professional manner, and you just wanted to just chop people off. And so there was this whole evolution that honestly, I don't even think you made the whole kind of change that you've now as a part of you during those years. Like that really happened maybe in the last 4 years, to be honest with you.
Probably 4 or 5 years.
So, so here you are. You're a young executive, and you know more about me than probably most anybody except for my wife. I used to have a custom tailor come in the office. I never went shopping, right? I would have somebody come in. All my stuff was custom made and that sort of thing. It was a whole different deal. Now you find one suit in my closet for funerals.
Basically weddings and funerals, yep.
Yes. So, so we've both evolved, but very specifically, you were instrumental in growing that company. You could sit in any seat, which was always a benefit because, even though we had multiple people in every department, like if something happened in a department, you could just go sit. You could fund loans, or you can help in the sale of loans, or in origination, or in funding. Like literally, extremely versatile. How did that actually happen? Like, how did you learn every facet of every part of this business?
I mean, let's look at you back then, intense would be an understatement of your drive and your expectations and where you wanted to go, because you had a vision and you knew that the vision was attainable, but it was only attainable if we took what was at the beginning a very small and scrappy team of people, very, very small, and achieved some pretty extraordinary things together that not one of the people on that team, including us, had ever done. And so the desire to understand every role was a necessity, because what you expected wasn't that we were going to fumble through things. What you expected was that we were going to not only figure it out, but perfect it, because that was the expectation. It causes a mindset shift and a thought process that you don't half-ass anything, that you figure it out. And so as we started to build a team, and we had people that were human beings, we had moms, we had dads, we had people that had life would happen. You're running on a skeleton crew, a small team, volumes coming in before you have enough people. It's a balancing act. There is no other option than one person to say, if the crap hits the fan, I have to know how to do this, because everyone's livelihood and the people we're serving as our customers depends on it. Yeah. And so I did. I mean, gosh, you think about what we accomplished in that time frame. I didn't realize it as it was happening at all.
Yeah.
At all.
So true.
Contracts, Wall Street agreements, negotiating, redlining things, 23 years old and sitting in boardrooms with huge investors and being like, I want this change and that. I mean, that is wild to me now, to think that that was what we were doing at that point in life.
Yeah. No, very true. Look, even today, you could sit in any seat in the company and operate, and as a smaller company, that is even more of a benefit. But you evolved during that period of time, and you really learned about the business inside and out. Mm-hmm. And of course, the mortgage business is quite different today than it was back then, regulatory-wise, and tools and technology and all those things. But the underlying essence of what we do is the same, and our goal is to provide people loans to buy homes. And so at the end of the day, everything we do is through that lens, and you have this really uncanny way of getting to what's needed very quickly. Like, there's a lot of noise. We can talk about different things, but you very succinctly get to exactly what's needed, and you execute on it today in a very streamlined way. And like we talked about just a minute ago, those skills really, I feel like, were developed over the last 4 or 5 years. So we went through that period of time, right? And then the crash happened, 2000. For us, it was early 2007. It kind of rolled out over through 2008 for most everybody else. And then you went through a lot of changes, right? You went through changes physically, which I'd love for you to talk about that if you're comfortable with
Sure.
it. And what you specifically did there, you went through changes in your home life, right?
Yep.
You had a different last name back then. And then you went through changes in a career. Mm-hmm. So here you are, you had this kind of illustrious career in your 20s, right? Where you went from learning a new business, processing, then running all of operations for a 43-state company that did wholesale, retail, consumer direct, wrote our own product, all that stuff. And now you're late 2007. You're without a job. What do you go through?
The word humble is the word that is paramount during that time in my life. So, I realized at some point, mid 2000s, working too many hours at the detriment of my health because I hadn't ever learned that was a priority. I didn't even have the concept of that thing they say on airplanes, like you got to give yourself the oxygen mask first at all. Yeah. Like there balance wasn't even a thing in any way. Not in what I put in my body, not in how I moved my body, not in sleep, not in anything. It was full throttle all the way every day. No kids. It was work. It was work. That was what it was. And I didn't have the maturity to understand that. But what I did see was I saw health issues in family members that were getting older. I thought about how young I actually was and the things that I wanted to accomplish in my life personally, and realized that if I didn't catch control of things, that I was in real danger physically, and I just didn't want that for myself. I started to believe that if I could reach this level of success in business and have wonderful friends around me and a great personal, life, that I deserved to also physically be healthy enough to appreciate it and have it in the long term. And so I made, the decision that I was going to change things. And that was an emotional process in and of itself. Changing your habits, completely changing, taking everything that you learned over 20 plus years of your life and your upbringing and going, I'm going to do the opposite of all of those things. I'm going to do that, and then not knowing that the market is going to crash within like 90 days of me actually starting to get healthy. And then realizing that as I'm taking stock of life, that I'm also not in a relationship that I want to have long-term, that I can't see the future there. Because when I got married at 22 or 3 years old, that was just what you were supposed to do. Did I really even know to ask myself the right questions? And so it was a complete reset in my life. It was going from extraordinary income at an incredibly young age, extraordinary responsibility of people, of leading, into basically everything was different. Everything.
Yeah.
And so that's where I figured out that there's nothing in this world that can come at me that will take me down, that I am made to just get back up again and dust myself off and figure out what's next. Not to say that wasn't painful, sad, depressing, hard, all of those things. But I just kept moving forward. There was just no other option.
So you got to this point. So business, our business was shut down, and you took stock of your life, and you're like, I'm just not happy. I'm not happy in my relationship, which is where it started, right? And you asked for a divorce. Like, how did that happen? You asked for a divorce. Like, it became nasty, but how did it start? Are you a tech investor looking to shape the future of real estate? HomePie is the #1 for sale by owner marketplace, and we are revolutionizing the way homes are bought and sold. I'd love to hear from you. Just email invest@homepie.com and let's chat. Now back to the show. Like, it became nasty, but how did it start?
It started with the fact that I was just listening to the way I was being talked to. And all of a sudden I heard it in a different way. Like, I heard it. Like, I was so busy focusing on business all the time that life was just happening. Money's streaming in, we're spending it, travel, this, that, whatever. And I wasn't really sitting down and examining things. And so when the level of respect started to decline as I was taking more control over myself and my health and my life, that was not supported. And so all of a sudden I'm going, why is this person talking to me this way? What? No, absolutely not. And it was when I was like, this isn't the way that it's going to be, through attempting at counseling and all sorts of things, because it wasn't just like I said, oh, well, it was really, truly like, what else can I do as a last ditch effort? And one day I sat in front of a therapist that was a marriage therapist, and the person looked at me and he just looked at both of us and he said, you can't unring the bell, can you? And I said, no, I don't think I can. He said, I don't think we're talking about how we can work through this any longer. I think now we need to start talking about how we can unwind this.
Okay.
And
so
that was
how
it.
Happened. Okay.
Yep.
And then, it was not a fun period of time. And it set you back in a lot of different ways. You had a house, you had dogs, you had a travel trailer, you had like stuff, and you had to basically walk away from all that because of how nasty it got and move back with your parents, right?
I was the breadwinner, and I moved back in with my parents and left my
But it was
house.
worth it for you at that point. So for people out there that maybe are in a similar situation, they're young, they got married early, their life isn't quite where they want it to be, and they're starting to take stock for it, or stock of it. What advice would you have for somebody that's in that position today? This
is the first thing I would say is follow your intuition on that. if you're already feeling these things and you've been feeling them for a long time, can you walk away and feel confident that you did everything you could do to make yourself feel peaceful with the decision? But then the second part of that I wish I had thought of was to be practical. When you're running on emotion and you're making a huge life change like that, well, if you're like I was back then, I was all heart. And I didn't even think about things like my cell phone is going to be shut off on me. My bank account is going to be cleaned out within hours of me walking out the door. My accounts are going to get frozen because this person had access to everything. Mm-hmm. And not everybody behaves in a way that is rational, nor do they have integrity when things like that happen. And so talk about what I would do differently. I would preemptively protect myself in that way, and I didn't even think to do it back then.
So, I mean, that's good practical advice. Think about all the fallout and protect yourself, and not to take advantage of somebody else, but to protect your own interests and rights, and make it easier because you had a rough time of it. So, but you had to you rebuilt from there, and you wound up taking positions with large banks, which you had not ever done before. So I can't remember, was it Countrywide that then was acquired by?
So
and
you
started
happening.
with Countrywide though, and then Bank of America, and you very quickly moved your way up, right? And you ran the head of.
So it was called post-sale foreclosure. So it was the entire portfolio of Taylor Bean and Whitaker loans that had defaulted and been foreclosed upon, and TBW went out of business, and B of A was the only servicer large enough with HUD that they could trust them to take them over. So it was like 5,500 or 6,000 properties all over the nation. And what we were tasked with was I was tasked to build an entire team from scratch of people who would send property preservation specialists out to just assess the state of these particular properties. And we saw crime scene stuff. We saw some of the most awful things that you could possibly imagine. And then figure out what the heck do we do to fix this? Because what we need to do is we need to get these properties in shape that they meet the minimum HUD standards and get them on the market and sell them.
Yep, that's right. And so you wound up running that entire department. And while you were there, you saw somebody look cute to you. And you found your future husband. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that was really interesting about that time in our industry, now we're getting into like 2009, was everybody was really displaced, right? Everybody that had been on the origination side of the business was super displaced. And so I was told, hey, you got to hire like 60 or 70 people. I started looking at resumes and I'm like, we have underwriters applying for jobs here. Underwriters are incredibly qualified and knowledgeable. They can audit an FHA loan and assess a property as well as anybody can. So I started interviewing underwriters like crazy. I mean, they were triply qualified for these roles, right? But I knew that they needed work and I could get a lot of talent.
Very similar to today, honestly.
Yep, very similar. So I was training a manager to be a manager under me. I had like 3 managers under me, and then and they were supposed to build these respective teams. And so I had a particular woman who'd never been a leader before. She was great. And I was sitting in on the interviews with her, first to do them and show, and then to let her do them, and I would watch and I would give her advice. And so we start bringing in people, and of course, in walks Mr. Cavanaugh in his suit in the lobby of Bank of America in Simi Valley. And I know that at that time in my life, that was the last thing that was on my mind. But, over the course of months of banter and so forth.
It became history.
Yep.
And you're happily married now. Very happily married. So let's fast forward, because I think for those people that are listening, you can bring so much value to them today and going into the future that we should probably talk about that. So how you got to where you are today, where you are, and I did say an icon in the industry, and I'll explain why I said that. But, I had called you up, kind of lured you back to working with me, and then we started working together. For the first time in my life, had a partner, and that partnership fizzled out, let's just say, and went back to kind of my own thing. And in 2019, you came to me and you said, I want to go to this new trade organization. And by the way, the mortgage industry today, really nothing cohesive about the industry at all. There was no, as a mortgage broker, we were very disenfranchised, since 2008. Previous to that, you had a couple of organizations, very regional, not much traction, not many people went to it. But then this new thing came about. And you came to me and I was like, what do you need that for? I don't think so. And you're like, I'm going, right? You said that to me. I'm going. If I have to, I'll pay for it myself.
Yep.
And so that's that whole guilt thing that you've learned with me. And I'm like, fine. And you did it, right? So that was really the catalyst to kind of Jamie, phase 2. So tell us, so even at that point, I mean, again, we're going to be real. Even at that point, super smart, like intimidating when people get to know you. But before they do, like you really, you had lost a ton of weight, all those things, right? You look a lot healthier and stuff, but you were still very like subdued. You were very to yourself, not very outspoken, right? Just in small rooms. And, again, like didn't really take complete care of yourself, but then you decided, I'm going to be a different person. And I think it all started then.
I think it did too. So the actual event was March of 2020, and it was in Irvine. It was close by, so it was drivable and stuff. And I just remember not knowing a single soul. I mean, I literally did not know a single soul. But the thing that really made me want to go was that I had been invited to a very small invitation-only thing the day before the event, which was the very first Women's Mortgage Network meeting, the summit. And that appealed to me because there weren't a lot of women in mortgage. There still aren't as many as men. And that whole journey is another podcast altogether for us to talk about. But that was big to me. And I was really honored to be part of. I mean, I think there were like 30 of us in the room. I was really honored to even been asked. I'm like, wow, how did I wind up on anybody's radar? Right. Yeah. But hey, this is awesome. I can get behind this. And that event was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I met some incredible people that are still friends and mentors of mine today. But then I was just looking around me, lobby, bar, watching. There was a community. And people were coming together from all different areas of the U.S., technically competing, but yet not acting that way. And I realized that this community was forming that had never existed in the wholesale space before. And I just really wanted to be some part of it. Yep. And it just kind of started to snowball from there. I was listening and watching to a lot of people that were successful and looking at what they were doing. They were very giving of their time to me to share with me what was working for them, very abundant in what they would do. I started making friends, deep friendships I still have today with some people. And talking to leaders who became much bigger leaders later because their company scaled exponentially. But at the time, we're just coming up like we were and trying to make a go of it. And all I knew was that I wanted to get as much as I could out of the experience. And so as I began to learn and emulate and put into practice things that were working for other people, and then they started working for us as well, I started to become more vocal about what the industry needed and where we were lacking and how we could change it. And it became a movement, quite honestly, a big movement that then afforded me opportunities to share my thoughts in a more public forum. Yep. And that right around then when I'm looking around and I'm going, oh, I have to be on camera on a stage. Like, oh, I'm going to be on a Facebook Live. Okay, well, the image is going to be a little more important now than it ever was before. Yes, Jamie, you can be smart and you can be successful and you can be outgoing and you can also improve your image. It doesn't have to be the smart girl can't be, presentable. Like you don't have to have that mindset anymore. Yeah,
I've witnessed the evolution, and the organization we're talking about is AIM, the Association of Independent Mortgage Experts, and that was the very beginning of it, and it was a movement, and it is a community, and you became a big voice in it very early on, to the point where now you're on stage multiple times a year, you travel sometimes, you became part of the organization, and so when I say an icon, like you get calls from all the business leaders in the mortgage broker business all the time. They call you for advice. They ask opinions. You lead organizations in the community itself. And and you're really well known and respected. And it is that evolution where you're like, okay, here I am, this young girl. Yes, I'm smart. Yes, I'm getting recognition for what I'm doing, but I'm very quiet about it. To I have something to offer that's more than that. And so now you've mentored a lot of women that are in your kind of previous position, right? They're really smart. They're really good at what they do, but they're not very vocal. They don't really put it out there. And you've helped them to also have a voice.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just about believing that you do offer value, and it's about taking that first step. You know, we had a person that was going to do their very first breakout session at Views, and they wanted it so bad. They asked for it. They had all of this knowledge and stuff to impart on other people, but the prospect of doing it, of getting up and doing it, was really, really, really daunting. And at some point, I remember sitting in the lounge area with this person, and I said, "You're going to do it.
Yep.
And you're going to be fine. You're going to do it. We're not even debating it anymore. You're going to get up there and you're going to do it. You have all the preparation you need. You might fumble. You might forget. You might skip over words. It's okay. People don't expect perfection. They want authenticity. And so if you're talking about something you know like the back of your hand and something that you believe in, don't over prep yourself. Don't practice. Just go and do the thing. And once you do the thing, it gets a little less scary each time."
That's perfect. The way you said that is absolutely perfect. And I'm sure she thanked you afterward.
I just had a meeting with her this morning, actually, at 8.
Yes. Yeah. So look, you're bringing, you're kind of bringing back the value that you've extracted from the industry to others.
Yep.
And that's how you've earned the respect from them. There's a certain method you go about things that I think more people should do. So you're very good at executing, right? And so we talk about this. There's a book called Rocket Fuel. And it talks about good partnerships, and it talks about the best of them or the most powerful. They have a visionary, and then they have an integrator. And the integrator is the one that basically takes the ideas from the visionary, chops them up, and says, we can do this, this, and this, and then executes on them, right? And even gives the feedback of that's not good, but this is good. And so we've had that relationship for a long time. And we made a decision, I guess it's about 1.5 years ago now-ish, to start growing the company. Mm-hmm. And that too came from you coming to me saying, why don't we grow this again? Like, I'm ready. You know, we're not getting any younger. And I said, okay. I said, I feel like it's time. And it's not been the best time in the industry to do that, because the last 2.5 years have been very difficult. You know, volume's way down industry-wide. We lost 34% of licensees at the beginning of this year. And but we decided, now let's do it. And all the fruits of those labors that we put in over the last 1.5 years-ish are now just starting to take place.
Yep.
And a lot of that, honestly, is due to you being laser focused on the execution side. And so what can you share with people about what it means to execute on ideas?
I'd say if you're considering joining the AmeriFund team, it's a really good idea.
We as processors at AmeriFund Home Loans support the loan officers in every aspect of the loan once it comes into processing, because we want them out there marketing themselves and originating more loans and supporting more borrowers.
Competitive commission plans are a given, and powerful technology is expected. But what truly sets us apart is our culture. We've built a solid support system for our loan officers.
If you're interested in joining the AmeriFund team, go to amerifund.com/careers.
What can you share with people about what it means to execute on ideas?
Yeah, you've got to plan. I mean, it's such a cliche, you know, fail to plan, plan to fail. But I swear it's so true. We preach this with sales all the time when we're training folks. It's the consistency that matters in executing things, because you know, if you do one thing once and expect results, you're not going to get them. But if you do that same thing repeatedly and consistently, it's not an unknown as to whether that's going to produce results for you. It is known. It's just you can't see it yet, but It's known. You look at the decades of history of leaders in every space, including our own industry, who have said, go do this. And if you do this, you will succeed. Once you realize that you've got to put aside the illusion that you have any control over when you see results, and all you're focused on is executing consistently and having a plan, if you just focus on that, I'm not going to think about what I have to do for the next 30 days. I'm going to think about what I have to do today and what I have to do tomorrow. And if every day I do a little bit of the things that I need to do to grow, then over time, those small efforts expand. So we have at any given time probably 6 or 7 or 8 initiatives happening in life and business. I've got different things I volunteer with. The best lesson I learned was time management as it pertains to execution. I learned to be incredibly protective of my time, not out of selfishness, but out of preservation of my ability to execute, not on one thing, but on all the things in little bite-sized pieces. And so my days are planned ahead with certain flexibility because things happen and people on the team need us and we've got to be there. But for the most part, my day, I know what my day is going to look like the day before, and I wake up around 5 a.m. and I take another look at my day to make sure nothing slipped in there that I wasn't aware of, and I prep for it and I stick to it. If I'm going to work on recruiting for an hour, I am going to work on recruiting for an hour. And unless something is on fire, that is what I'm going to do. And guess what? I don't always get to work on it for the full hour. But if I worked on it for 30 minutes, then I did that 3 times in a week. That's an hour and a half of effort toward my goal that I wouldn't have made if I made excuses for myself, that I wouldn't have made if I allowed everybody else's priorities to run my day and my time. And so by knowing that every day I can end the day by saying, did you put effort into the 5 goals you have? And the answer is yes. It's less about how much effort I put in and more about the fact that I did do it. And that is what leads to results.
Well, I think one of the biggest points you made there was that you're very protective about your time.
Yeah.
And time is the one commodity that we cannot get more of. We can't earn more. We can't make more of it. We have a limited amount of time. And honestly, we don't even know what that limit is.
Nope.
It ends at any time. And so if you take stock of your life and where you're spending your time, and if it's with people that don't bring you value, and I'm not talking about monetary value to your company or to your pocketbook, but value in any way, emotional value or spiritual value or fun or comedic or in any value, right, in any way, the best thing you could do is stop letting them take that one commodity that you have no control over, you have a limited amount, and just be with the people that add value to your life.
Yeah, you have to place boundaries around your time, because for the first couple of years that I was getting really involved with the trade organizations and stuff like that, you know, people would just all day text, DM, because my information is out there. I mean, I'd be a terrible salesperson if you couldn't reach me easily by Googling me or looking me up. And so my why has always been to help other people. So it's like, oh, I can help this person. Well, what you start to realize over time is like you could literally spend your entire day just taking calls from others. So there's an art to learning how to direct people to resources that can help them if it's not you right away, to ensuring that everybody understands that they are important. It's not that they're not important to you. It's that you have things that you have to execute on. And so you start to learn how to challenge people by giving them the first 3 or 4 things they need to do and then come back to you. And what you find out is that 90% of them won't even do those things. And so that is where your time begins being spent on the people that were willing to actually go and take action before they would get to you and spend time with you. And those are the people, in my opinion, that are deserving of the time and effort because they were willing to put it in for themselves. Smart. And that's really the biggest thing, right?
Yep, that's so smart. I think that dovetails nicely into partnerships. And so, I consider you one of my closest friends. I consider you a family member. We've known each other a long time. Not many partnerships get to be like that. And although I didn't really have partners for the majority of my career, I did have one, and it turned out not to be so great after 4 years. And I wasted 4 years of my life in that partnership. And so I think that there's probably a lot of people today that may be listening to this that think, I don't know if this partnership is going to take me where I want to go. And maybe there was a purpose when I started it, but it's really not turning out to be exactly what I wanted. And they stick with it, and time elapses. Again, that commodity that you don't get more of. And I could think of one person right now as a close friend of mine who is in a bad partnership and has been thinking about how he could get out of it, what he should do, and just it's been a year that he's been in this miserable position. What, when we're talking about partnerships and partnerships like ours, where it's like in the last couple of years, you probably had, a dozen opportunities that would have paid you more, that would have given your family maybe a different path into a future, yet the vision remained such that you're like, no, I need to stick with this. And part of that is, I think, just the relationship that we have together and the belief and confidence in each other. How does somebody identify whether they've got that kind of relationship or not, and maybe they should, not waste any more time?
If you open your eyes in the morning and you hesitate to jump out of bed, ask yourself why. If you are not excited about what you get to do, ask yourself what changed. Identify whether the problem is you or if it's the people you have around you, and then figure out how to chop it up and fix it. Business relationships are no different than marriages if they're approached in the right way, in the sense that if you have a business partner, then you have long-term plans. It's not just to get money, make money quick, scheme, get in, get out, but it's truly something you want to build a legacy. Then you don't walk around with an exit strategy in your mind. The people that are already doing that have an issue that they need to address immediately, because I don't walk around thinking about exit strategies. When you relieve yourself of the things that are weighing you down, pun intended, you find that 100% of your energy and focus is on the things that make it better for you and everybody around you every single day. And so, you can apply this in places where maybe you don't have a business partner, but you work for somebody else and you dread it. Like, you dread dealing with it. You don't have to do that. So assess why you're even asking yourself those questions in the first place, and don't gloss over those feelings, because they're very, very real, and that's your intuition that's trying to tell you that you need to move into a different direction.
Yeah, I like the saying that you are the summation of the 5 closest people around you.
Yeah.
And if you assess who those people are, and they're not people that you aspire to be in some way or fashion, if they don't bring that value to your life, you need to get new people.
Yeah.
And most don't do that. They just put up with it, right? They just put up with it. These are the people that I know. These are the people I see every day. And they end up not getting where they really want to be and where they deserve to be. And it's because of the people that are around them. They need to elevate their position. I recently joined a group of people in a mastermind, and we had a summit last week where we all met in person. And, not everybody, but a good chunk of us were there. And, the vast majority of them were younger than me, and they're very goal-oriented and things of that nature. And I realized very quickly that each and every one of these people, because they're the summation of the people and the other people in this group, they're all being elevated. Mm-hmm. They're partnering together on things. Like, that doesn't happen on your own. They're partnering together. They're investing together. They're making things of value because of the people around them. So for those people that are in a position where they're just putting up with a partnership, or they're just, like you said, they don't even want to get out of bed in the morning, they're not excited about it, maybe it's time to really assess and make a change.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If you really want to reach a level of success that is beyond even your highest goal, you need to ask yourself some real tough questions and get real. Yeah. And if you can't get real with yourself, then you're never going to go anywhere, and you're going to cap your potential. here's the thing. When you look around at highly successful people, some of them are kind and some of them aren't that kind. And some of them are smart and some of them aren't that smart. But the one thing that they have in common is that they were willing to sit down and say to themselves, what's it going to take the next step and the next step and the next step? What do I have to eliminate? What do I have to add? What do I have to do? And what am I doing now that's not serving me? And some of those decisions are hard and emotional, but you've got to do them if you have your sort of like that carrot that you see and you want to reach it. And you have to remember that in your pursuit of that goal, if you're leading correctly, you're bringing people with you. You're not just helping yourself. You're helping other people, and together you're reaching a goal and then deciding what that next goal is going to be.
What do you like most about leading people?
My advice for someone selling their home: number 1, do it yourself and save. Number 2, use HomePie.
HomePie makes it easy to buy or sell without an agent. I can list a home in minutes and start receiving offers right away from buyers.
When we discovered that we didn't have to lose $40,000 in agent commission just to upsize to a larger home, it was an obvious choice.
List your home for free at homepie.com. Keep your piece of the pie.
What do you like most about leading people?
I like watching them reach that point where they go from being scared to do something to realizing that they can do it and how much value they possess.
Yeah. I've seen loan officers join us and not really have a lot of production, and you spending time with them and coaching them and helping them and even getting on the phone with borrowers and that sort of thing, where they can listen into the way that you deal with things and how you help people through difficult situations where it's an angry mob and you turn them around to be on your side. And that education has helped in numerous numbers of loan officers that have worked with us to become better. And that is a beautiful thing. And so I think that's really what distinguishes us at AmeriFund from many other companies out there, is that you do take a personal interest, not only in helping guide or doing group sessions and things like that, but literally rolling up your sleeves, jumping in the trenches, and helping on specific loans, with specific borrowers, with real estate agents. And as we grow, do you expect to be able to continue to do that?
I will always do it to a degree, but there's something really interesting about the approach. So we talked about how protective we have to be over our time. So it takes me twice as long to jump in on an issue than it ordinarily would. And the reason is this: I'm not solving the issue for somebody else. I'm showing them how to solve the issue. So rather than becoming somebody they're codependent on, I'm empowering them that the next time they have a challenge, they have some tools to resolve themselves. So you keep doing that enough, it takes twice as long the first time, but you're not doing it in perpetuity. You're making another person capable. That's where the real growth and the value comes in.
And I think that's why our salespeople, our loan officers, respect you so much, and why they are so devoted and they are thriving. It's because of that teaching that you're giving them. So, what's the future? What do you envision for the future, Jamie Cavanaugh?
We are in a good spot right now in business. I mean, it's electric. The energy is amazing. Finally starting to see the results. You and I knew the results would come, but we didn't know when. And so now it's happening. I want to see us grow, and I want to see all the people that have been with us for so long start to elevate themselves and win. I want more loan officers that aren't really reaching their potential to come here and realize they have a home with us. I want to continue to live the balanced life I'm living, where I'm excited to get up every day and do my thing, but I also have the autonomy and the flexibility to say, I want to go to my daughter's field day at school today. Hey, B, I'm being a little late. Cool. Team's got us. I want that to be the thing. And I want to continue to step back a little bit from that spotlight that I've been afforded and teach other people how to let the light shine upon them. I want to be their coach, and it doesn't need to be about me anymore. And I'm excited about where that could go.
Who should call you if they're interested in a change? They're in the mortgage business, maybe they're doing okay, maybe they aren't, but what's the type of person that should call you?
Any person who shows up for themselves every day. Any person who wakes up and says, if you tell me what to do, I'll do it. If you give me a roadmap, I'll follow it. The person that shouldn't call me is the person that isn't willing to change their behavior in order to achieve different results.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I know you had limited time. You took a portion of your day and devoted it to me and to this podcast. So I was excited to have you. And we're going to do it again. But I wanted people to get to know the real Jamie. And you've got a lot of things that you've lived through, and you've got a long ways to go. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate our partnership and our friendship.
Thanks for being on the journey with me.
Yeah. Till next time.
Yep.